Adam Harris here. It is Sunday the 22nd of November and I'm having a look at the global indices. I'm starting off here with the Dow. Actually, what I'm going to do is switch over to the NASDAQ and start off with that. So the NASDAQ being generally the leading indicator sort of index at the moment. First of all, just highlighting first that monthly is definitely overextended. There's no doubt that true value lies closer towards 10,000. At the same time, the last 4 candles show some exhaustion around about that 12,000 area. We can also see if we look at the weekly, I've highlighted it here in orange. We've produced a bit of an indecision candle last week and an inside indecision doji or spinning top candle this week. So all of that just really showing that the markets seem unable to kind of get over the line. If we have a look at price action over the last few days, price really had some strong rejections this week, and its challenge this week for me is that it needs to really get break free of that. Again, it's very similar to a lot of the other markets that I've looked at today. They're all sitting, same as last week actually, are sitting close to these key levels, and they need to break through them. So the market does appear to be on the verge of potentially breaking free of some constraints. However, it's also not at all impossible that the market will fail in all the different respective asset classes to break through their respective resistance or support levels. So what I'm going to be looking for this week is to see if we can indeed get back over that. If the market can continue to go through that, I do think, as I've said before, it's overextended. I think it is due for a correction. I do anticipate that we will get that anywhere in the next few months. And so if it does happen to start this week, then so be it. But it's due, kind of, as I said. And so the question is this week, will we start to break below these previous lows and then head down towards 11,000 to test that for support? Or can we actually manage to muster up the energy to continue to push through? But we have to get through these levels. And the NASDAQ is the one that I'll be watching on a daily basis to see how well it copes. Going back to the Dow, here the Dow has encountered some strong resistance right at 30,000. Nice little double top rejection there in terms of divergence. Actually doesn't look so bad. There's no real bearish divergence there. So overall, that in itself is not really a very bearish sign. It shows indication of a bit of struggle, but nothing really much more than that. That weekly candle, however, is now a nice little bearish, small little rejection candle, and that could potentially, ultimately, could turn out to be a turning point. That monthly candle looks good. I don't have any real issues with this. It's not overextended. It's a nice healthy candle, so I'm not too concerned about that. And this is in its own way is kind of inconclusive. So again, what I need to see this week is, do we stay above support here, make another run at 30,000 and close higher by the end of the week? Certainly if that NASDAQ can tread water, this does not seem to me to be completely unreasonable. If we start to fall lower immediately, start to break through these lows, then I expect price to come back down into these previous highs over here and potentially down towards 28,000. So we're watching for that. It just means that until we kind of get free above those levels or we start to commit to a move to the downside, it just means I have to be extra cautious. Looking at the S&P 500 also, having found some good rejection over here, that weekly becoming an inside bearish rejection candle as well. Again, also it is possible that these in the past, certainly in terms of price action, they indicate a potential for a reversal. So that is possible as well. The monthly, again, I don't find it that overextended. Certainly it was holding above support at the previous highs, and itself in isolation does not look that bad, but it is struggling to go a lot further. And there's no way that all of these can continue to climb while the NASDAQ has a really strong correction. So this is why I'm looking at the NASDAQ to see how that ultimately, what the health of that is. So again, I'll be looking to see if 3,500 can hold the support. Can we manage to take another run at and break through these previous highs? If the NASDAQ can do it, the rest of them can do it as well. And alternatively, if we start to break lower, there might be some intraday higher risk, but intraday opportunities to short to the downside. Having a look at the mini Russell 2000, you can see it's almost closing right up towards against the highs here at 1,800. It is now entering overextension on the weekly. That monthly is a really strong candle. Broken previous highs. Overall, again, in isolation, not looking unhealthy, not looking weak, but certainly looking overextended, and therefore any kind of a pullback, certainly on the weekly basis, into previous highs would be fine. But I'd like to see if we can break up through that. It does look as though it's very keen to try, and certainly let's just see if that happens in the early part of this week. Then going on to the FTSE 100. So I had a look at, there was a bullish candle that came in during the week last week on Wednesday, and I wanted to see if the market would follow through and break the high. It did not. So in fact, Thursday and Friday failed to break those highs. They still remained bullish. They stayed above support, but they failed to follow through. So the market failed to do that. And again, we have here again against that previous highs at 6430, give or take, we've got an indecision potential turning point. So looking at the FTSE, this is absolutely a valid possibility that the market, if we break lower before breaking high, that the market is going to head lower this week back down towards 6,000. That means the monthly candle could ultimately close as a strong bearish rejection candle, not having broken the trend, and therefore that would imply that the longer term is now going to look more bearish. I would prefer, obviously, for all of us that the market can break to the upside, and so it'll go into an uptrend on the monthly, and then the future looks a little bit more bullish. Longer term future looks a little bit more bullish. But if we fail to do that, we close as a strong rejection candle here. The implication is the market is going to continue to head down towards 5,000. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on the FTSE this week, looking at the DAX. DAX in isolation, again, staying above that level, tight consolidation range, indecision candle at a recognized resistance level. All of this is showing, certainly on the weekly and daily, is showing that potential for the markets to head lower. The monthlies do not actually look that bad. So the weeklies, and therefore that's why I said there's an argument to be made that the markets can go higher. Here's a great example, of course, with the French CAC that has now gone into an uptrend. That's beautiful. It's a nice break through strong resistance. This was a star perform this week, and it's back into the next level of resistance over here. So that is now going to be the issue. Can price manage to get through this? It's overextended. It needs to take a bit of a breather, but that looks really good. So fantastic to see that actually happen. Looking at Euro stocks as well, we've gone into an uptrend. That's a great sign. These are markets that have failed to really kind of do that. They took a really big hit. They've managed now to go to new highs and to change their monthly trend into an uptrend. These are positive signs. So this is why I say that there are arguments in some of the non-US markets which have not actually performed as well. They've actually gone into monthly uptrends, and I think that that's very significant. It just means there is a real valid possibility. Now, having a look at the Nikkei, which has been a star performer, massive. What was beautiful about this is this kind of breakout of this sluggish crawl. Very nice move, has pulled back into the moving averages. Nice old bullish candle. This could potentially be a swing low on another move up this week. At the same time, there's a weekly rejection candle, and this could just turn out ultimately to be a retracement back in to test the previous level of resistance as support before continuing on upwards. The monthly, a very nice kind of solid breakout in that level with no divergence really there. So in isolation, this shows a potential on the weekly to see a retracement back down, to have a bit of a correction back down, certainly down towards 25,000 or not. So this week, early on, I want to see if we do break the lows instead of the highs. But just pointing out that it's not all dark. Non-US indexes are showing some real upside potential. Looking and finishing, wrapping up on the ASX 200 in Australia. Solid breakout of a tight consolidation range. Beautiful monthly uptrend, higher lows, higher highs, heading back into previous support, potentially testing that for resistance. A bit overextended on the daily, starting to go into smaller candles, from bigger candles back down to smaller candles, implies a bit of a stall, bit of a breather, possibly price coming back down to 6,400, maybe coming back down to test this level for support. The weekly not looking so bad at all. So there really is some amazing, genuine, positive moves in non-US markets as we head from west to east, and that's great. And so that supports the potential idea that the US markets are potentially going to manage to recover from this. And so that is why I want to keep an open mind with regards to any minor corrections we might get, and also to potential moves to the upside. Yes, I stand by the fact that at some point in the next 3 to 6 months, we do need that NASDAQ to take a bit of a breather. What I mean by that is it certainly cannot keep breaking to new highs. It'll go further and further away from true value. And when it does ultimately correct, in those situations, it's going to be bad. And so what I'd like to see is ideally a smaller correction at this point now, which would bode well for the next year or two. So I'm obviously hoping for that, because it bodes well for us in Q1 2021 and so on and so forth. But just really liking the bullishness on these other markets, and so I'll keep an eye on the NASDAQ, but having that mixture of there's genuine optimism here, combined with just a concern that NASDAQ is overextended, and if that does decide to take a breather, it naturally impacts a lot of the other markets. There we go. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great week.